because I had like $106 in the bank, and like I said, I had to sell my dog.
Imagine being so broke, so desperate, so completely out of options that you're forced to give away the only friend who stayed by your side. What would you do? Not a watch, not a jacket, not some old piece of furniture. His dog, his best friend, the only companion he had left while his life was falling apart. And in that moment, he had no idea that the man standing there, completely broken, would one day become one of the most famous faces in the world. But right now, he had nothing. But this isn't just a story about a man who lost everything. It's about what happens when you reach a point where there's nothing left to lose. Because years later, that same man would become one of the most recognizable faces in the world. So how does someone go from that to this? Because right now, he was just another broke, forgotten actor trying to survive. Before anyone knew his name, before the movies, before the fame, he was just another struggling actor in New York. Rejected over and over again, audition after audition. Nothing ever worked. And the worst part wasn't the rejection, it was how predictable it became. He would walk into a room, give everything he had, and already know how it would end. We'll call you. They never did. People told him he didn't have the look, that his face was too different, his voice didn't fit, that he simply didn't belong in Hollywood. And after hearing that enough times, you start to believe it. You start to question yourself. You start to wonder if maybe they're right. How long can someone keep going like that with no money, no connections, no one backing them, just a dream slowly falling apart? Bills kept piling up. Opportunities disappeared. And little by little, life started closing in on him until one day, even the basics became a problem. And that's when things got worse. At some point, it stops feeling like things will get better. It starts feeling like this is just your life now. He was running out of money, running out of time, running out of options. There were days when he didn't know how he was going to eat, nights when he had nowhere to go. So he slept wherever he could, bus stations, waiting areas, anywhere that felt a little less cold than the streets. And through all of it, there was only one thing that stayed with him. His dog, always there, always loyal, always waiting, even when everything else was falling apart. But reality doesn't care about loyalty. It doesn't care how much something means to you. And eventually, survival becomes more important than anything else. So let me ask you, what do you do when the only thing you have left is the one thing you can't afford to keep? And then the moment came, the one he had been trying to avoid, the one he knew was coming. There was nothing left. No money, no food, no options. Just one decision he didn't want to make. He stood there holding him, his dog, his best friend, looking into his eyes, trying not to break, because how do you explain that? How do you make sense of it? How do you let go of the only thing that stayed with you when everything else disappeared? But survival doesn't ask for permission. And sometimes life backs you into a corner where there is no right choice, only a necessary one. So he did it. He sold his dog for $40. And just like that, the only thing he had left was gone. And the man standing there with nothing left wasn't just anyone. It wasn't just another struggling actor, another forgotten face, another story that would never be told. That man would go on to change his life forever, because the man who sold his dog for $40 was Sylvester Stallone. But hitting rock bottom does something to you. It forces you to decide who you're going to become. And for him, giving up was never an option. So he kept going. Rejection after rejection, he stayed in the fight. Until one day, something changed. He sat down, and in just a few days, he wrote a story about a fighter who refuses to quit, who keeps getting hit and still moves forward. A story that in many ways was his own. That story was Rocky. And when people finally noticed it, they wanted to buy it. But there was one problem. They didn't want him in it. They offered him money, more money than he had ever seen before. Enough to solve everything. Enough to change his life instantly. But it came with a condition: walk away from the role, let someone else play it. And for a moment, that probably sounded like the easy way out, but after everything he had been through, after losing everything, even his best friend, he made a decision. He said no, because this time, he wasn't going to let life decide for him. And then everything changed. Rocky became a success. The same man who had nothing was finally being seen, finally being heard, finally being recognized. But even with all of that, there was something missing, something he never forgot. His dog, the one he had to let go when he had nothing left. So he went back to the place where he lost him, looking for the man who had bought his dog. And when he found him, he asked for him back. But this time, things were different. The man knew who he was now, and he refused. At first, because now the dog meant something else, and getting him back wasn't going to be easy. So he offered more money, then more and more, until finally he got him back for thousands of dollars. The same dog he once had to sell for $40. Sometimes life will push you to a point where you feel like you've lost everything. Your money, your opportunities, even the things that matter the most. And in those moments, it's easy to believe that it's the end. But sometimes that's exactly where the story begins. Because the man who once had to sell his dog didn't just become successful, he became a symbol of what's possible when you refuse to give up. So if you're at your lowest right now, remember this: the bottom isn't where your story ends, it's where it starts.